I'd just graduated college and decided to do the thing everyone talks about and almost nobody actually does. A solo cross-country road trip. No real plan, just a general westward direction and a car full of gear. Money was tight, so more nights than not, I slept in the back of my hatchback in rest stops and truck stop lots, rather than pay for a room. Most nights were fine, boring even, just the hum of highway traffic and the occasional idling truck. The trouble started somewhere in western Nebraska, at a rest area I'd stopped at more out of exhaustion than choice. It was maybe 11 at night, a handful of trucks parked in the truck lane, 2 or 3 other cars scattered in the regular lot, the kind of half-populated stop that feels safe simply because it isn't empty. I backed into a spot near a light pole, put the sunshades up in my windows, and tried to sleep. Around midnight, I woke up because a car had pulled in directly beside mine. Not 2 spots down, not across the lot, but close enough that if both our windows had been open, we could have shaken hands. There were plenty of empty spaces elsewhere. I lay still, watched through a gap in the sunshade, and saw the driver just sitting there, engine off. Not moving, not getting out, not doing anything except sitting in the dark, facing my car. I told myself it was nothing. People rest at rest stops. That's the whole point. But 20 minutes became 40, and the car hadn't moved. And I started to feel that specific, cold awareness that something about this wasn't random. I decided not to wait and find out. I started my engine, deliberately, no attempt to be quiet, because I wanted whoever it was to know I was awake and in control, and pulled out of the spot slowly, like I was simply moving to a different part of the lot. I parked instead directly under the brightest light near the building, close to where a trucker was standing outside his cab having a cigarette. I rolled my window down an inch and said, "Hey, this okay if I post up near you? Guy in the lot's creeping me out a little." He said, "Sure, no problem," and that was that. But I noticed, watching in my mirror, that the car that had parked beside me pulled out of the rest stop a few minutes later and didn't come back. I didn't sleep well the rest of that night, but I did sleep, parked 40 feet from a stranger with a CB radio and a very large truck, which felt, in that moment, like the safest place in Nebraska. I told that trucker the next morning before I left what had happened, and he wasn't surprised at all. He told me, casually, like it was common knowledge among people who lived on the road, that rest stops, especially the more remote ones, occasionally attract people who watch for solo travelers, particularly women traveling alone, and that the smart move is always the one I'd made without really knowing the term for it. Cluster near occupied vehicles, preferably trucks, under the brightest light available, and never assume a public space is a safe one just because there are other cars in the lot. I finished that road trip. I made it to the coast and back, and I'm glad I did it. But I changed how I slept for the rest of it. Always near occupied trucks, never in an empty corner of a lot, even if it looked more private. And I started using an app that let a friend track my location in real time overnight, something I hadn't bothered with before that night in Nebraska. The trip was still one of the best things I've ever done. It just taught me that surrounded by people and surrounded by safety aren't always the same thing, and that a gut feeling at midnight in a parking lot is worth acting on immediately, before you've fully convinced yourself you're overreacting. Thank you for listening. If you like this story, please consider like, comment, and subscribe the channel.